Hey folks, this is Nimisha and Kushal. We are product managers at Uber and SoFi respectively. Is it Sophie?
I think it's SoFi.
SoFi, alright. So SoFi is a company, which is important.
Wow.
Um,
Is it a roast episode?
yeah, so welcome to Let's Take This Offline. We are a podcast. What do?
We talk about products, we talk about tech, and we talk about everyday PMing life. So
Yep.
this is episode 4, I think. Yeah. And then in episode 4, we'll be talking about gamification. So a lot of us have heard about gamification, but Nimisha, what exactly is gamification?
I love how Kushal sets me up to these
Yeah.
questions. Okay, so gamification is this concept where companies and products, what they do is they want users to onboard onto their product, use it a lot, all of that, right? How do you incentivize these customers to actually come and do it? People are distracted. They don't have enough incentives. Maybe your product is really expensive. All of these are kind of friction points. But how do you kind of get people to like what they're doing and do more of it on the product? So I'll give you an example, I guess. So, for instance, all of you must have, when I say all of you, like a lot of you must be using some sort of fitness apps. I use the Apple Watch, for instance. I basically use it because it tells me that I do a great job every day. So, there's this concept of like an incentive or a reward. I feel very recognized if I just take a 20-minute walk. So, these gamification platforms have systems in place. They have rewards, they have progress bars, leaderboards. Essentially, companies are built around just playing the game. That's what gamification is. It's a very psychological trick, a big trick played by these companies, but they're super useful. Um, yeah, Kushal, what's like a gamification memory that you have from way back when you were a kid?
Well, you know what? I don't have an Apple Watch, but I have a mom who says I'm doing a great job every day. So
We have been gaming our lives,
yeah.
basically.
So I think like the first early version of something that would give me a reward was something like a Happy Meal. You go to a McDonald's and then you would get like a toy at the end of a meal.
Yeah.
That would like make me want to go to McDonald's again and again. There's like in India there's a chewing gum called Boomer.
Yep.
So with Boomer, every Boomer that you buy, you could get a tattoo. So that was like amazing.
God, dude, even Tazos.
Yeah.
Right? I think I only bought Cheetos for the Tazos. I would like give the Cheetos packets away, but I wanted to create the whole Tazos collection. So I
And
guess,
people who trade Tazos and all that, it was
yeah.
like an incentive to complete the whole
Yeah.
thing, Pokemon thing. So
And I think like here, if we break down the elements of the game, playing the game was essentially getting the Tazos and like showing it to your friends. So you wanted more and more people to buy buy
yeah.
Cheetos for getting the
Yeah.
Tazos. So it's also a case where the companies incentivized us to create more players
Yes.
who would come and play the game. It was genius.
And it was also an ecosystem where all your friends had Tazos, so you also had to get into the game.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you would be
FOMO.
missing out.
Yeah.
And once you had those, I think you would trade and all that.
Totally.
But I think like the first tech product that I can think of in terms of gamification was a startup founded by my college seniors. So it was called Play Life, and it was like an app to for employee productivity. It did not scale, but that was like, hey, there's something called gamification in tech and all that.
Yeah.
So I think in this episode, let's deep dive into this whole notion of products that gamify users.
Let's do it.
So in terms of the flow for today's episode, we'll be talking about apps that use gamification to onboard users, acquire users. Then we'll talk about the whole notion of engagement, keeping users engaged on the platform. We'll talk about monetization.
Yep.
We'll talk about churn, as in like if somebody is leaving the platform, how do apps gamify to bring them back onto the platform? And finally, we'll wrap up with our favorite tech news of the week.
Yep, let's do it.
And yeah, let's do it. So
yeah. We like structure because we're PMs.
Yeah. And we also iterate on feedback. So
we also do, yes. Thanks for the feedback. Keep it coming.
Yeah. Awesome. So talking about acquiring users, what comes to your mind, Nimisha?
Okay, so I think like companies essentially start, they have the need for gamification to acquire users when a market is saturated. You have to create some sort of a FOMO to get these users onto this platform. you have to steal these users from other places and stuff. So I guess one would be the whole Clubhouse thing that happened during COVID. I don't know how many of our listeners are actually aware of this, but during COVID, there was this app which was imagine an audio version of Twitter, right?
Yeah.
Imagine all tweets but audio recordings or video recordings. It was actually really cool.
It was just recordings, nothing stored.
Nothing
either
stored.
You miss it or you don't.
Yeah. So either you get you get the point. So it was pretty cool. It created a lot of FOMO, and it got a lot of really big names to come and start using. I remember like getting into a call where there were about 500 people discussing, I don't know, like unicorns and startups and all that, and Mark Zuckerberg was talking.
Yeah.
So it was very cool.
Elon Musk joined Clubhouse and all.
So I think that was one very cool way to get users onto the app is through like creating FOMO. Yeah,
it was also invite only at the very beginning, and it was also iOS exclusive. They started Android pretty late in the game. So yeah, and each person would get 2 invites, and then you had to scramble for invites. People would sell those invites on eBay as well for hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
So that's how it would acquire users. I think then we can also talk about the whole notion of credit card companies.
Right.
As in, hey, there is this FOMO notion to get a fancy credit card.
Yeah.
The thing that comes to my mind is Sapphire Reserve.
Right.
You get a Sapphire Reserve. Somebody had to refer you. The person would get a referral bonus. You get a card. If you spend $3,000 in the first 3 months or something, you'll get 60,000 or 100,000 points, which you would redeem for travel and all that.
Yeah.
So then it was like a premium card. You would get it, and then you would use to acquire users.
So I guess the overarching concept is that you entice users to join a game.
Yeah.
So you entice them with a way to get recognition, points, see their progress, and all of that. So I think one other way is referrals.
Yes.
Right. Referrals are a crazy way to just not just get one user, but maybe like get 10 along with them. And this is a very like Cheetos and Tazos kind of a way where if you think about something like an Uber referral or Wealthfront, I mean, every app right now, if it doesn't have a referral code, I don't think I'm really joining it if it's a paid app.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, like with Uber, we would further gamify the whole referral thing as well. I think we would create multiple email IDs and then like referral from one email ID to another. So
it's very meta because we game the gamification.
Yeah.
Right. We have not consumed alcohol before this episode. Whoever is listening,
we're high on life.
Oh my god. Yes, we are. So yeah, I think acquisition, creating FOMO is a paradigm. Giving users like a sneak peek into what their life could be if they become part of the game. Like, there are these advertisements where they talk about how your life would be awesome if you have a I don't know, Amex Platinum credit card.
Yeah.
You're like on a beach sipping pina coladas because you have all these points that you've used to book like the best hotel. Like basically FOMO essentially.
Exclusivity also, like FOMO exclusivity as well. Like there's this app in India called Cred. It's like, for like the premium 1% of the earners in India. Everybody wants to have a Cred account also to get this like perks and all that. So I think
So I think it's a very cool marketing concept. It's a very, like, in essence, like if you are a product manager building out something like, I don't know, an Uber or anything like an Apple Watch or whatever it is, you don't really have to think a lot about the feature required to acquire users.
Yeah.
It might just be out of your control, but companies have used gamification a lot to market a product, and they've done a pretty good job of it.
Would you say this whole Apple ecosystem is gamification, as in?
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole point is that you do the activities so that you get some recognition, and you can share that recognition with your friends who are in your contacts.
Yeah.
I think we're moving on to the next thing, which is basically engagement, how gamification gets you to use a product day in and day out. Yeah. Do you want to start with that?
Speaking of engagement like this, like tons of companies and all, I think the way we can probably structure it would be to talk about different types of methods used to gamify engagement. One of the things that comes to my mind is streaks, for example. So with streaks, as in like, hey, you you do something on day one, and if you do something on day two, the streak adds on. The thing that comes to my mind instantaneously is headspace. I meditate every day, and every day, I mean, when I meditate, the streak adds on. So there are days when I have meditated, but the app had some bug or all, so the streak was not recorded. So I made an effort to send an email to the customer care that, hey, my streak is not updated, please fix it.
Oh wow.
I was so obsessed with that streak stuff, and I do want to like keep on doing it, keep on adding to the streaks. Adding, I mean, like one more point with streaks is like the whole Snapchat streaks.
Yeah.
If you had a Snapchat streak with a person, you don't want to break it. You want to compulsorily send a snap to that person.
Yeah.
And so
It's basically a way of life now.
Yeah.
I snap like my friends every day. I still use Snapchat, and if
Oh,
I
wow.
break,
I'm wondering whether we should do another podcast.
and if I break a streak with my best friend or my husband nowadays, they all get offended.
Wow.
So it's a way of life.
There is another app called Be Real or something.
Be Real, yeah.
Yeah, that also has a streak concept.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
most apps do. It's actually an amazing way to keep things going.
Yeah.
A lot of insurance companies also have streaks. You said you had a terrible experience
Yeah.
with Geico, but I think it's an amazing concept. Like, so what these insurance apps basically do is that they try to get you to install the app, and they say that they're going to monitor your driving behavior. And if you do a good job, you don't really do a lot of speeding, harsh braking, all of these things, they reward you in
Yeah.
some way. They give you some points, some sort of rewards. And if you do that continuously for a week or something, then you complete a streak.
And if you don't do that, they charge you more. So
I mean, I feel like that is probably gamification gone wrong. Like, you shouldn't be doing that, right?
yeah, maybe gone right, as in like they
Sure.
penalized risky drivers.
I think so. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
companies should use gamification as a way to make users forget the various points of friction in
Yeah.
utilizing the product.
Yeah.
And not really as a way to, it's a carrots versus sticks approach.
Yeah.
So I think using it as a carrot is great, but using it as a stick can make you really get pissed off.
Yeah.
Like, you're there to have fun, you're there to feel recognized and rewarded. But by playing the game, if you're giving data to these companies in ways to penalize you, I would be uninstalling the app ASAP.
That's what I did eventually with Geico.
Right.
I installed the extra feature.
Okay, we had some difficulties recording, so you might notice a bit of an audio change. We don't have our mics anymore, so we're gonna scream and shout, and hopefully you can hear us. So Kushal, you want to continue where you left off?
Yeah. Speaking of shouting, somebody said that my voice is soft. I mean, yeah, I'll try to shout. So we're talking about streaks, and then one thing that comes to my mind with streaks is Duolingo, the app that you can use to learn new languages, and now you can use it to learn new musical instruments as well. So every time you learn or do a lesson on Duolingo, the streak builds up. And if you miss a lesson, Duolingo would send you notification saying that, hey, you're missing your streak. Why don't you just spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes to take a lesson today?
Yeah.
The logo of Duolingo is an owl. It would be like a sad owl. It would have some animations forcing you to come back on the app.
Yeah.
So what all other engagement products that you can think of, Nimisha?
Totally. So I think we've talked about how gamification can be used as a concept to create FOMO, get players onto the app, and something like a streak can keep you engaged.
Yeah.
But what can keep you even more engaged? I think it's again a very psychological concept where you want people's dopamine to get hit every, very regularly, right? So one other way to do that is to create levels or leaderboards or ranks.
Yeah.
So the whole concept of comparison comes into play. So you have your YouTube silver, gold, platinum members. You have Twitter, which is now X. You have verified users. Even on Instagram, you have verified users. So creating some sort of a hierarchy gets people to want to not just play the game, but keep playing the game to attain these levels.
Yeah.
So their investment is much more, their return to the product is much more. Yeah, I think that's another really great way that companies have used gamification to just keep attention spans glued onto the product and keep users hooked.
Also, speaking of levels, let's say on Instagram, if you have 1,000 followers, it would be 1000.
Right.
But as you cross 10,000, it would be like 10k.
Yeah.
10.1k. Even
It's a
that's
different
like a level thing.
Totally.
Yeah, feeling we'll maybe get someday. Yeah. So.
Totally.
Yeah. Also, rather than comparisons, there's also this leveling up things.
Yeah.
That also keeps people bringing to the platform. As you're talking about credit cards or maybe airline points,
Yeah.
you are like a bronze member, silver, gold, platinum member,
Yeah.
and then people get exclusive access and all that stuff.
Right.
As well. Uh, I think in terms of engagement, the other thing that comes to my mind is there's this app called Tree or something where
Right.
you focus, and then if you're
Yeah.
focusing, the tree builds up and they'll actually plant a tree,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
It's like, I think it's one of those apps which employs this Pomodoro technique where if you focus for 25 minutes without looking at your phone, it basically plants a tree. It's a virtual tree on the app, but once you have a forest, which is a collection of, say, 10 trees, it actually plants a forest for you somewhere in Argentina. I mean, I hope it does. It's claiming that it does. So, yeah, I think gamification, okay, earlier, like let's say 90s, right? 80s, 90s, back when technology was not that ubiquitous, gamification was just to get users to just come and use the product once, get them onto the platform, get them to buy a few Cheetos packets, those kind of a thing. But as people have now gotten used to gamification throughout their life, because their entire life is available online, there are various things to keep your games exciting and for you to continue to play the game. So of course rewards are one thing, leaderboards are the other thing, point systems. You're creating communities where your entire you can last in a game for years to come.
Yeah.
Right? You can live your entire life in that game. For example, like I started off with as a student using a Discover credit card.
Yeah.
But I had to level up to something like a Sapphire Preferred.
Yeah.
And one day I want to have like an Amex Platinum or something. But it's also interesting that all these companies, they don't really harmonize. Like I can't really transfer my points from one credit card to the other credit card and stuff like that. So your investment when you're making it in one specific game, it's so hard to get out of that and go into the other game.
Yeah.
So even though these companies can maybe do like a collab, they don't.
For a reason, right? They want people to be exclusive in
exactly.
a sense. Also, like in terms of keeping on playing the game, the other example that comes to my mind is Uber drivers.
Of course.
As in, Uber drivers are given levels. You're a platinum driver, whatever. Like I don't know what the levels are, but I think their commissions depend on what level they are, and they're just incentivized to keep on driving. At Uber. I think there might be some other features that might be coming out, etc. But that's what I know right now. Yeah.
Totally. I think if we start thinking about like the future of what gamification would be, we know that we know the basic concept of gamification, but we have to talk about AI. How would AI sort of revolutionize the whole gamification landscape, right? So if you take an example of this app called the Nike Run Club app, the whole concept of the app is that it's a one-stop shop for anything related to running. Whether you're a novice runner or a mediocre runner or maybe a full-on like a marathoner, your life can be on the app in terms of tracking your runs, a coach sort of judging your running. Your friends are also that other players in the game. Essentially, you get rewards, badges, all of those things. So if I think about that kind of an app and how AI would help gamify this experience more, I would think about maybe using all of these insights that I'm getting and having some sort of a AI coach potentially who is rewarding you along the way. So maybe providing this encouragement and recognition can be made better utilizing technology. So that's I think one way to think.
Because sometimes some of these personal coaches can be a bit rough. It's like you don't want to tell that you goofed up to a coach. So what you want to do instead is that maybe an AI coach, which is a nicer version of a coach who understands you, motivates you, would be a great I think next step. Also, one thing, let's say moving on from engagement, the other aspect of gamification is monetization. Companies using gamification as a concept to monetize. One thing that comes to my mind is Starbucks app. As in, hey, every time you buy a coffee, you get a point, and then you can redeem those points for a free coffee sometime later. So, these companies want you to spend more and more on the platform. just to incentivize you with like a reward at the end. Also circles back to the whole Tazos thing, as in like they want you to spend with by giving you a small reward.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, most of you might have used some sort of a food delivery app or a grocery delivery
Yeah.
app if you've lived through COVID. So Amazon Fresh and Instacart, they expect you to sort of buy at least something like $40, I'm
Yeah.
guessing, for a free delivery.
Yeah.
So free delivery is an incentive for you to spend more. So it's very subtle, but that's also a gamification concept.
Yeah. Also Prime membership for free delivery,
Right.
similarly. But I think I sometimes find it detrimental because most of the times if I'm ordering groceries weekly, my cart would not be $40. So I'll be like
Right.
forced to buy junk food or maybe
Yeah.
non-perishable items. And yeah, I mean like okay, it's good for the business.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's good for the consumer per se.
Totally agree. It's possible that if you're facing that sort of an issue, it's possible that you're in like the 10th percentile or something of users. So you haven't really been accounted. You're not that important to them. You know what I mean? Or
Possible,
they
yeah.
might be trying to get you to buy more, like create a bigger basket size. I'm sure there's like a PM sitting somewhere in Amazon who's like, oh, like the average basket size is $30.
Yeah.
Let's make it 40. So let's make this as the limit.
Yeah.
Like maybe they feel like your spending capacity is good, so they want you to buy
Yeah.
more.
So I think that's what happened actually because they increased the basket size to $150. Earlier, when Amazon Fresh started, it was $25. They increased it to 40 or something. Then they made it to 150,
Yeah.
and nobody would buy it. And now they're bringing it down to I think like 50 or something,
Yeah.
something reasonable. I don't use Amazon Fresh at all now, but yeah.
As you were saying this, I was kind of not paying attention. So I was actually thinking about, it just came to my mind, the whole concept of like Marvel and DC
Yeah.
and these camps, entertainment camps, they have totally gamified their audience,
Yeah.
right? So for instance, like if you think about it, okay, let's say something like James Bond, okay? It could have been a huge like billion-dollar franchisee where people wait for the next Bond movie. I mean, it used to be, but not anymore.
Yeah.
Because they don't have any sort of gamification elements. There are no memberships. There are no rewards for being part of the fan club. Spotify, for example, has this like fan club that you can be part of, where if you basically take that membership, you get exclusive access to, I think we might have discussed this in a previous episode, you have access to discounted tickets, I don't know, like signed t-shirts and merch and stuff like that. So James Bond as a franchise could have totally become that. It didn't. But Marvel and DC and a lot of anime franchises have done that.
I mean the merchandise and everything. I mean look at it, like it's
Totally.
everywhere.
It's like they're using the system of like, if you're a tier 1 fan, you get certain things. If you're a tier 2 fan, if you're a tier 3 fan, you probably get to meet the artists themselves.
Wow. Also look at football clubs, for example.
Yeah.
I think I'm not a football fan, but you can actually
It's
buy
like
a
lost half our audience right there.
but you can actually buy a brick.
I support Arsenal, just saying.
Oh wow, you are one of those.
I am.
I mean, somehow all my friends are like Arsenal fans, gooners.
Nice.
But you can actually buy like a Liverpool brick. I mean, if you're like a Liverpool fan.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So it's pretty interesting. I feel like you can find gamification in so many aspects of life, and it's kind of interesting to see how you are being gamed. And we're all so deep rooted into it, and we're so used to it. We want referral codes, we want exclusive access,
Yeah.
we want to level up. So I don't see us leading lives without gamification.
Yeah. Also, speaking of like exclusive access, one more thing that comes to my mind and monetization is this whole concept of drop shipping, or like, hey, today we are doing this drop 100 t-shirts, and then people would like buy these things at premium prices.
Yeah.
I was watching this video of a cookie company called Crumble.
Oh yeah.
And then it's like a billion. I mean, they did $1 billion of sales in 21-22.
Yeah.
And how they scaled was like, hey, they would have exclusive flavors for the week, only
Yeah.
for that week, and people would go in and buy those flavors. So
Yeah.
one of those techniques that they used.
Yeah.
Moving on from monetization is this concept of churn,
Yeah.
of companies using gamification to prevent users from dropping off.
Right.
Duolingo again comes to my mind,
Yeah.
where let's say it's like really aggressive in terms of sending notifications. If a user is, I hate the term user, But if let's say a learner is not learning on Duolingo,
You're a product manager and you hate the term user.
yeah, I watched Social Dilemma and I'm like, hey, I mean, I would never use the word user when referencing a user. So,
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah.
I've been saying that all the time. Okay, I will not say that when I'm around Kushal.
So yeah, I mean, like it would send aggressive notifications, and then let's say the last notification it would send is like, hey, okay, so looks like you don't want to use Duolingo anymore, and this is the last notification we'll send. Goodbye. And 30% of people come back.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, any other example you can think of?
So many. So I have sort of figured out a way to pay very less for a lot of things by making the gamification world work for me. Okay, you heard it here first. So what I do is there's this company called Pros. Okay? So what this does is it creates custom formulas for shampoos and conditioners and hair products essentially based on where you're from, your ethnicity, age, the pollution in your area, blah blah blah. Okay, based on your hair goals. You know, if you want to grow your hair more, if you want to make it more thick, whatever it is. So this company charges ridiculously high amounts. Okay, it's a subscription-based service. I think it's great. It's just that it's really expensive. So once I got kind of frustrated and I cancelled my membership. So after I hit cancel a couple of times, they offered me a 90% discount.
Wow.
So now I just do that the whole time. If this episode goes viral, I'm screwed.
Do they use do you use a new email ID every time on the same email ID?
No, I just say that I want to cancel my membership and it says, please come back. We will give you the next 3 months off.
Wow.
So I've been doing this for the past few months and it's just been working. I'm probably like a test case that they're figuring out right now.
Maybe you are a super user, they don't want to lose.
They really don't want to lose me, yeah. So yeah, I think those kind of concepts where your incentive to stay on the platform is heightened when the cost to stay on the platform is reduced.
Yeah.
So
the same happens with me with Lyft or Uber. If I haven't used it for quite some time, they'll send me a notification, $5 off for the next ride, something like that, just to bring me on the platform.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's all on gamification that we can think of, more or less. So
probably like we've covered a lot of B2C companies and gamification concepts in B2C, but we haven't really spoken about B2B companies. Like for example, how is an Azure Cognitive Services doing gamification to sell their product more, or how is a Salesforce using gamification? It's a bit hard because maybe they have like exclusive memberships, for instance, for their customers. Maybe they have like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 customers or something like that. But I think the only thing that we have, we discussed this earlier too, is probably like they try to get their sales teams to be very motivated to sell the products more to customers. So they kind of have these, best sales rep of the month kind of a platform where it's very recognition based. It's our entire careers are basically gamification. Like if you think about it, like promotions are a gamified way of keeping you in the company.
People today also gamify peer reviews, peer feedback.
Right, totally. Yeah. I remember like back in undergrad, Quora was a very heightened gamification vibe. Like getting upvotes on your OG Quora answers in the era where ChatGPT wasn't there was super satisfying.
Yeah. Today also, if somebody upvotes my old answer, it like brings me a smile on my face.
Totally. So. And Stack Overflow also.
Yeah.
I don't know, do you have an internal Stack Overflow for your company?
No, we don't have an internal thing. We just use the
I just very recently realized that Uber has one, and I've started contributing to some of the answers. Like literally no need. Nobody's asking me to do this. I'm not going to get promoted because of this. But it's just giving me so much joy because I wrote something and like 10 people upvoted it. Now I just open it for fun and see if I can answer some questions.
Nice.
So it's a very, I'm very prone to gamification, I guess.
I think like another thing that motivated people to contribute was Google Maps.
Oh yeah.
As in back in the day, I mean, when Google Maps was just starting out, people would put in like street names of the streets, names of favorite locations, etc.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people contributed. There was this community of Google developers group, Google Mappers group, etc. Everybody would communicate, chime in, and then contribute.
Totally. So crowdsourcing can be gamified really well. in short, I think like gamification helps in a lot of ways. A lot of users don't know they're being they're being gamed. But the users who are being gamed know how to use the platform to make it work for their own needs. Yeah, in short, gamification is pretty cool.
Awesome. Then we can move on to our favorite tech news from the past week.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think we were talking earlier about the Chat GPT version. So what's so special about this new version?
So ChatGPT today came out with a version called O1. It's not the Visa or whatever. It's ChatGPT version. Long story short, so they just released like one page worth of information, and they hinged a lot around how this model is going to be safe, and they've trained it well, and they've adhered to responsible AI practices. They didn't give a ton of examples around how it's better. The only examples they gave were statistics around how this model performed really well on difficult tasks.
Okay.
So they're saying that this model can be an assistant to people in science, maths, technology in general. They use the term PhD.
Wow.
So they're saying that it's going to help people who are doing PhDs as their assistant. So it could potentially read a whole bunch of papers and create really good reasonings for you. It could summarize things really well for you. Apparently, it participated in a math Olympiad, which earlier it got like 13% success rate in, but today this new model is performing with an 83% success rate. So I see this sort of a model performing really well in very terse literary environments like medicine. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I think, of course, this is great in terms of, the complexity of tasks it can do. But I think, like, as OpenAI releases new versions, the increment, the delta will be like lesser and lesser in terms of the wow factor.
Yeah.
Probably. Maybe that's why they had this soft launch of a one pager, etc. Not like this when they released version 4.2, it was like this video, I mean, like this live stream, etc.
Yeah.
That said, I mean, OpenAI is now valued at is going to be valued at $150 billion. So
Wow. So yeah, they're doing something right. Yeah, I think aside from that, there was the iPhone 16 announcement.
yeah,
That was pretty cool. iPhone 16 is coming soon. What version do you have?
I have 13 Pro.
Okay, I have a 13 mini
Nice.
because it doesn't fit in my pocket otherwise. And women's pockets are a joke. So yeah, that's my reasoning.
No comments on that.
The day they make smaller iPhones, I will be a regular upgrader.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think that's all for the
That's
podcast
all
today.
for the week, folks. I feel like this one was a long one, so we're gonna cap it at this. Thanks for tuning in.
And in the next episode, we are going to talk about streaming services.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. So thanks for listening so far. Do like, share, subscribe to the podcast, and let's take this offline, I guess.
Let's take this offline. See ya.
Awesome. Thank you.